Hey there guys, how's it going? Is everything fine? Everything's okay? I hope it is. I hope you're having a spectacular day. Mine just started, and I stepped out of bed today wondering the same thing I wonder every morning. I took a look at the calendar and I wondered, when will we finally know something more about Breath of the Wild 2? Then I thought about it some more and I said to myself, well, it's fine they're taking their time. Not just because everyone wants the best possible sequel Nintendo can deliver, but also because I've been playing Breath of the Wild 1 for more than a year now, and I feel like I'm just over half of it. When I finally do complete this game, I'll for once be on par with everyone else when it comes to play a new video game release. As you know, I'm always 3 to 4 years behind when it comes to getting around and playing a game. But what I feel I'll never be on par with anybody else is knowledge about the Legend of Zelda series. And that's because I've played only a scarce and few games, especially the old ones, from this series. And I've missed some key milestones. But this means that I got to play and form judgment about Breath of the Wild with no preconceived expectation or hopes about the game. Sure, I missed some callbacks and some Easter egg, and it always saddens me, but my mind was free of preconceptions. And when comparing my judgment about the game, which, by the way, I have not completed yet, I'm about halfway there. I will complete this game someday. I know. I just I waste a lot of time picking things up from the ground. But when I compare my absolutely not final, absolutely not ultimate opinions on this game with the opinions of everybody else's, I found out that I and fan of the series felt very differently about some aspect of the game. And this is surely material for a discussion, but it's a discussion that will take place another day, cause this premise led me to question, what would a guy like me that has played very few games in the series, and that, to be honest, hasn't even completed Breath of the Wild, expects and wants to see in its sequel? Well, there we go. This is my perspective on the things I hope to see in Breath of the Wild 2. Many people lamented a lack of variety when it comes to enemies in this game, and that's a thing they would like to change in the sequel. I'm surely among them, but my opinion is a little bit different. I feel like there are enemies in Breath of the Wild, and then there are obstacles. You know, obstacles to exploration, to getting around, things like, you know, the rain, or maybe lightning storms, or a rushing river, or guardian sentinels. In a game where exploration is at its core, I don't feel a need for enemies that just attacks you. No, I feel a need for enemies that pose a clever obstacle to your exploration, and one you need to overcome in a clever way. Take bats, for example. They are a nuisance and I don't like them, mostly because they're just annoying and don't pose a real threat, and I don't like their design, but that's a subjective thing. What I would like to see in Breath of the Wild 2 is something maybe replacing the bats. Something like this, imagine this. You're paragliding around, sailing across the skies, when all of a sudden you hear a shriek coming from somewhere, and you look around frantically and you see a giant eagle or hawk or monster of some kind swooping directly towards you, and if it hits you, you'll be ragdolling down to your death below. You need to act quickly and show your mastery of archery and eat him before it hits you. Another example, you're scaling your way up a rocky cliff when you notice a monster, maybe one of, you know, those spider thingy. What were they called? The Tiktalik? Something like... No, the Tiktalik is another thing. They are the Tektite. A Tektite that climbs and crawls towards you and attacks you. And maybe, just as in Breath of the Wild 1, you are defenseless when climbing, or maybe you are not, but now you have to think more carefully about your vertical movement. Maybe it's best to waste some arrows and snipe those monsters from the ground. Maybe it isn't, but now you have to be more attentive while climbing. But obstacles to the exploration are not the only thing that makes that exploration more engaging, more fun. Another key aspects are tools for exploring. And sure, Breath of the Wild 1 has a variety of tools and clever tricks you can use to move around and explore the wilderness, but it's not often that you get to use the enemies at your advantage. Think about the little stone talus. Now, imagine if they were made completely out of metal. I love the idea of using the enemies against your enemies, of just smashing them with one of their own. And one of the complaints that many people have against Breath of the Wild 1 is its difficulty curve. The more you play, the more easy the game gets. I don't feel like this is necessarily a problem, but I do feel like things would be better if the more you play, the more options to avoid direct confrontation, direct combat were available to you. Maybe enemy camps have pots of food or soup or something else that you can poison with your dubious food. Or maybe they have caged animals that you can release, similar to Far Cry, and get them to do the dirty work and clear the camp for you. Maybe you have mini metal talus that you can pick up and smash against the other enemies. But these are tools for avoiding combat, not necessarily for exploration. So can we come up with an idea for an enemy that could also serve as a tool for exploration? I did! Imagine an enemy, a minotaur perhaps, that when it sees you, attacks you by charging relentlessly towards you. Now you could maybe stop it in time, then get the other enemies to get in the way of its charge, so when time resumes, the minotaur charges at them instead of you. Or maybe you need wood, but you don't have a chopping axe. You can get the minotaur to charge at a tree and do all the work for you. Maybe the same with stones or secret passages and destroyable things in general. Another idea would be to combine different ideas. How about you get an upgrade to your Sheikah Slate and now you can use it different tools together in combination with one another. You could use stasis to have more than 3 ice pillars at once. Or let's think back to our monsters. You could have a charging minotaur that's also made of metal. Now with your upgraded Sheikah Slate, you could stop it in time with stasis and then turn it around against your enemies with magnesis so that it charges at them. Now on to more trivial stuff I'd like to see in Breath of the Wild 2. One thing I'm in agreement with everybody else is that I want a fishing rod. I want to be able to fish in this game. I know fishing technically was possible even in its prequel, but if you know me, you know that I love fishing minigames. I played, what was it called? We Play, and the one minigame I used to play was the fishing game, and it was the best minigame of the collection, 100 times more fun than the tank game. Yes, I said it, fight me! But either way, I love the idea of Link having a fishing rod, cause you can fish more than just, well, fishes with such a tool. You could fish for items on the ground that are too far away, or you could fish for fruits too high on a tree. You could maybe even fish for enemy weapons left in a camp. I love the idea of tools being used for more than just their initially intended purposes. Purposes? Lots of people would like the grappling hook to make a return, but I'm more of the idea that they could do something similar, but not quite the same. Maybe just an arrow with a rope attached to it would be a more fun idea. Something kinda like the climbing rope of Death Stranding, but one that you could actually aim and shoot far away. Maybe climbing a rope doesn't require as much stamina. Maybe you can craft different kinds of arrows. Maybe you could get fire arrows, electric arrows, or even poison arrows from different parts of the monsters you fight. And this, for me, would solve a problem that I have with the first Breath of the Wild, which is I don't really cook potions or all that much. My inventory is full with monster parts and I don't really use them all that much, I just sell them. But what if, in settlements around Hyrule, you have chefs or alchemists or sorcerer or things like that, that grants you potions or dishes or food or even just recipe, but you don't just pay them in rupees, but you also need to provide the materials required. Basically, think of it akin to the guy who colors your clothes. This way, you could pay for a particular dish that has a particular effect, or for a particular potion that has a particular effect, without having to search the internet for what ingredients are needed. Last two ideas. We've discussed the core component of exploration in the game and how it could be improved, but you know, there's one aspect of the first Breath of the Wild that I found a little lacking, which is that wild part. I'd like to see more wildlife, but I'd also like to see more interaction with wild animals, and I'd love to see wild animals interacting with each other and with different species. Things like leaving different kinds of bait to attract a particular creature, or even predators hunting prey. Something, again, similar to what was seen in Far Cry 4 and Far Cry Primal especially. This is absolutely a trivial thing and it's not necessary for, rendering the gameplay more fun, more engaging, but I believe it would render the world more real, more immersive. Things like this makes you really believe the wilderness is alive. That's the real Breath of the Wild, to me at least. And lastly, an idea about the Blood Moon in the game. First of all, Blood Moon, it's too easily skipped. So how about you can't sleep during a blood moon because of nightmares? Also, how about more unique monsters that come out only during a blood moon? More stronger enemies? But also, how about the blood moon being the darkest night of all? So you need to keep a fire with you at all times just to see what's in front of you. Again, I feel like we're taking a lot of stuff from other open world games, especially Far Cry, but Breath of the Wild did take a lot of inspiration from previous open world game, but then put their own spin to the formula. And that's what I'd love to see done once more. So we talked about the gameplay mechanics of the game, but we haven't really addressed the story side of things. Well, me not being that much of a fan, me not being that much of a scholar about this series, means that I wouldn't be truly able to come up with new fun or interesting ideas. The only idea that I'd be more than down for is, for the first time in the series, playing from the perspective of Zelda. And this is an idea that deserves a whole video about it. And fortunately, someone on YouTube has done that already. I'll refer you all to this absolutely amazing video from the absolutely amazing Duke of Dorks. Go check it out, it's insane, he's done it before Breath of the Wild 2 was even a rumor, and it's truly interesting and truly fantastic. Go check it out, subscribe to his channel, say Paki says I. And of course, if you're interested in other video of me, just a guy rambling on the internet about video games and animation and stuff, well, this channel is full of it, so consider perhaps subscribing and leaving a like, and absolutely do leave your comments in the comment section below. I wanna know what you think of Breath of the Wild 1, what you think of Breath of the Wild 2, what you're hoping for, and what your ideas are. Let's have a real discussion down in the comments below, and I hope to see you all again next time.